If you want to go to my website, The Promise Revealed, you're going to see some information there and some stories about my personal journey and what's brought me to this point in time. I'm also very active, have written a lot of content, which will be important for the planetary ascension aspect of my talk today on prepareforchange.net. I also need to thank my teachers today who've been very instrumental in my spiritual growth and awareness. I have to thank Dr. Fred Bell, Dr. Frank Stranges, Alex Collier, the Mahavatar Babaji, and Paramahansa Yogananda, and of course, great friend and mentor who has been very instrumental in my growth, J.J. Hurtak of the book The Keys of Enoch and the Kriya. I also have many other teachers, probably too numerable to name here, but I work closely with a gentleman who goes by the pseudonym. He's an emissary of light named Cobra, and we'll be getting into his information later. I guess, I'd like to talk about Ascension. What is Ascension? Ascension is the ascension of the primary nature of consciousness into the realms of pure spirit. To get a background on my perspective of Ascension, my personal experiences and my teachings, my understandings of the Ascended Masters, which relate to Ascension, I have to go back into basically understanding the multiverse, the universe of consciousness as we know it. So, obviously, Ascension is a universal principle that's been taking place for millions of years in many different worlds. And one thing I need to make clear to people when we talk about worlds and different extraterrestrial beings, there are many different levels or hierarchies. People don't use the word, but it's simply true. It's all hierarchy out there. Beings who exist in different dimensions. I'd like to break down, first of all, physical dimension, and then I'm going to go into the cosmic physical, and some of you may be familiar with this from Manly P. Hall and the Theosophical Society. Physical dimension is comprised of 7 levels. You have the solid, liquid, gas, ionic or plasma, and the first, second, and third ethers. It comprises 7 levels of the physical plane. In our ancient history, which was lost at the time of Atlantis and the flood and the deluge and the mankind kind of going back to caveman for some time, we have a basic understanding of what is called the 4 directions. Okay, these represent the 4 basic building blocks of the physical plane, which some of you carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. When we speak of carbon, we're actually speaking of pyramid. I worked with Dr. Fred Bell. Some of my early learning experiences were the first time I met him, he bought in these pyramids, which he was told to make by called Dwell Cool, who is some will know as the lower aspect of the Ascended Master Saint Church. This pyramid acts as a lens and separates the Earth's magnetism into 7 levels of energy. We have 7. We have 7 notes of the musical scale. We have 7 endocrine glands. We have 7 colors of light. And we have 7 levels of pyramid energy. And these 7 levels of energy, which I'll explain a little later, represent the 7 levels of consciousness. But let's look at the physical plane. what does the pyramid do? The pyramid principle is the principle of matter made flesh. Because it's a carbon atom, when it's aligned to magnetic north, it rings. It has a tone and a vibration. And it actually produces a life force field, which would come off here in what physicists would call patterned waves known as p orbitals. And if you were to look down, it would be like a flower, a lotus flower, or a consciousness energy field. In 1979, we took these pyramids to Thelma Moss in UCLA, who was doing studies, and we had some very profound revelations with Dr. Bell and Thelma Moss in regards to pyramid energy and interacting with the human consciousness. So the pyramid itself represents principle of matter made flesh, which is very similar to the Christ consciousness. I'm going to bring out a new device that I built, that I designed, called the Christos. Let you see that. It has a long way to go to be completed. There's going to be lots of crystals in here. This is a Christos. It's handmade, and it's plated with gold and has some other things there. Now the Christos is a principle of matter whereby flesh conditioned through time and space returns into spirit. Now there is a level of spirit, or the isness of God, of all creation, and then there is the false reality that we live in, which is called Maya, or the illusion. And the pyramid itself is based on the sacred geometry of math. The base divided by the height equals pi. This number progresses to infinity, and there is no possible way to create a perfect circle. It's actually a spiral. And you'll understand when you study sacred geometry that it's a spiral, that's an illusion. And with the modern day understanding of physics right now, which is called string theory, we understand that this is the center of a physical atom. Let's say we want to look at an atom on the orange. Imagine this is an orange. We would blow this up to the size of the Earth. Then we would look at this orange, and we would reach down on the ground, and we'd actually be picking up a cherry. That cherry looks real. That cherry is really a proton with a grain of salt revolving around it, so there's more space than there is, and it appears to be real because within nanoseconds, it appears the electrons stop and it becomes solid, and then immediately they jump and move. So the universe is flashing in and out of existence. Hindus call this Manavatar and Prayalaya. This is the illusion we all live in. Even many of the beings in the higher planes live within this illusory material world. Now, the physical plane itself, as we see it, is an illusion, and if we give it attention, we increase the illusion. The true goal is to ascend to the pure state, kind of like Livingston Seagull, where perfection is just being there. So I want you to, we're going to do a little meditation. I'm going to put you in an ascension seat towards the end of the show here. But I presume I have a full hour and a half, even though we started late, because I have a lot of things to go through. So if we can imagine now, I've showed you the physical plane. And I want you to understand that right now physics at its highest level, quarks, hadrons, muons, mesons, charm, strange, truth, up, down, strong force, weak force, are only our observances, and Dr. Fred Bell explained this to me because he was studying the shock wave of the atomic bomb when he was 15 at the University of Michigan in a Wilson cloud chamber. particle accelerator where they shoot something and they see the influences on the physical plane. And it actually would interact with the person watching it, would have a different reality. And so all of these understandings right now are barely grasping the surface of the influence from the astral plane. And I'm going to recommend that you get this book on my website because it really gets down and gets funky, by Dr. Fred Bell. But he goes into the actual atomic weights and measures of the physical and the astral plane. So here are the different planes here. I had this in a slideshow, but due to my illness, we were unable to technically get this together. But basically, each plane, I've told you the 7 planes of the physical: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and the first, second, and third ethers. And of course, carbon being earth, oxygen being air, nitrogen being fire, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen being water, nitrogen being air. You have the 4 building blocks of everything in the physical universe is composed of some mixture of those 4. So now let's go up to the astral plane. They have 7 levels of energy also. On the physical plane that we know of, the ultimate physical atom, see if I can find it here real quick, is called the Anu. The Anu is part of the science of the multiple dimensional planes of the universe. I'll give you a little picture right here. You might recognize this as the light fractal right over here. Oops, let me get my... Right here. This is the Anu. It's called the heart wave. Dan Winter has done a lot of work on it, and you may recognize this, you sacred geometry math people, as the ultimate spiral. There's 7 levels. It's actually shaped like a heart. Heart, which is sacred, which is the red sac. So if you recognize that you are all made of this universal illusory dimensional frequency, the heart wave and the fractal light, you begin to understand these higher levels of physics. A lot of the things that we think about on the earth are not really the way it is or the way it is. Some of the space people, I've had some contact. I haven't gotten in these conversations with them, but I'll tell you that they laugh at the modern day scientists' arrogance and what they think is going on. So basically, we don't even need to think about this stuff right now, because where we're at, we're on the physical plane, and where most of us are pretty much located in the dense lower aspect of the physical plane. Let me explain some things about beings in other dimensions. If you look at the Pleiadians are physical beings. Most of their bodies are comprised of the first, second, and third ethers. So they still are physical. I met a couple of them, and I met one up close once, and his skin was like marble. I could look into his skin, and I could see his veins. And they look blue. That's why they call it blue blood. It was almost white, had shock white hair, extremely blue eyes. And that's another story for a later point in time. But I can tell you, he was more ethereal. He's very thin-boned, kind of, they call them the Etherians or whatever, but he was here, and he was doing a certain mission, and Fred Bell revealed to me later. I knew who he was at the time. Fred Bell revealed me. He said, "Oh, you met James?" And I go, "Yeah, of course." I thought he was, and thank you for confirming that for me, because at the time it wasn't confirmed. But so they're physical beings, okay? Let's go to Venus. For those of you familiar with Ekankar, the Shab, the inner sound, and the teachings of the Shariat Ki Sugmad through the living Ek master that's given the teachings of Earth through the various lineages of light, the Venusians are actually astral beings. If you study Omnek, you will understand this as well. there's a process. They live on the interior of their planet and their astral. If you were to go in there and you were able to get in the inner plane, you wouldn't see them because your eyes are accustomed to the physical. They have an outer city on the external aspect of, called the city of Retz. And this is where they go through the process to become physical. It also acts as a physical way station for other physical planets, interact with them, mission to heal the Earth and to help us go through this process of planetary ascension. So you have these astral beings. So the people on Venus are at a higher vibrational level than the Pleiadians. Now this goes up. So let's take you through these 7 planes. On the physical plane, we have will, which is the color of red, and that's in the top. In the second, we have love, wisdom, which is blue. The third, we have active intelligence, which is green. The fourth level is harmony through conflict, and that's a yellow. And then the 5th plane is concrete science and knowledge. That's Ascended Master Hilarion. There's co-hands of these rays. I won't go through all of these. And the 6th ray is abstract idealism and devotion. And then the 7th ray is ceremony, order, and magic. And there's actually energies and vibrations that relate to expanding our consciousness and awareness. We exist on all of these levels, but our attention is focused primarily in the lower personality vehicle, which is this shell that we take on Earth. So we actually have a soul plane. Let's look at this at the cosmic level. We have the physical plane down here. Then we have the astral plane, which is the emotions and feelings, emotional feelings. And then we come up to the next plane, which would be the higher manas, or the intuitional, or the mental plane. And then above that, we have what's called the intuitional plane. Then we have above the intuitional plane, we have the causal plane, and then we have the atmic plane and the logoic plane. So the process of actual ascension has many different meanings and understandings for who we are and how we address those planes. Within my body, I have the atmic and the logoic plane. The mighty I Am presence exists actually external to the body at the distance from the base of the spine to the crown chakra, and then above that same distance is where the home of the atmic or logoic body. And part of the process of ascension is adoration and understanding those planes. Let's talk about, I want to get real quick here, let's go into ancient ascension. On the many worlds, the process of ascension is understood, and wherever the souls and the beings that reside on the myriad worlds in these interdimensional spheres, whether the physical plane, the astral plane, they are all seeking return and union to pure spirit. If you study the Course in Miracles, it comes to love and forgiveness, and it's the perfect being there. Anything in our consciousness field that we're dealing with here, we have this dualism. And that's unfortunately how we have to be related to. But reality, the perfect consciousness is the at-one-ment of all of this at the top, the pure non-dualistic nature of consciousness, which is the aspect of being there. So on other worlds, when beings pass over, and many of them live for multiple thousands of years, even 35,000, 40,000 years, and when they give up their body in these superculture worlds that are not as entrenched as we are in the lower negative worlds, but are simply in their own aspect, from what I understand, they actually have ascension parties, and people say they're going to exit their body now, it's time to go. And sometimes they ascend right on. So that's been going on for millions of years, before Atlantis, before Jesus. So we have that aspect of the ancient ascension primary nature of consciousness. What is the goal? How do we ascend on this physical plane? And I'm going to ask if there's any questions here in a moment. But if anyone has understanding that we have all of these planes, the ideal aspect of ascension is actually that we fill our physical vehicles with higher levels of spiritual vibration. Now, I'm going to give people an example. If they go to my website, on the right-hand sidebar, there's what's called a quantum flux resonator, a technology given to Cobra through the Pleiadians. It utilizes a vortex and a crystal. I took a picture of it in the Conscious Life Expo, and he said they'd never seen anything spike an aura so high. I said, can I get a witness on that? And they said, sorry, it'd ruin our business. But that's what he told me. He says, we can't. Good. And in that picture, you're going to see, as I raise that chalice up above my head, you're actually going to see, if you remember the Virgin Mary's appearance in Guadalupe, those lines that go out all around, and that's known as the causal plane. That's the vibration. If you could see the auric egg, or that Merkahbah vehicle, or that new vortex, which is your essence. Very close to Carlos Castaneda and Don Juan, and I personally witnessed my auric egg of light. I've seen that. I've seen that we have a point on it called the will. I've seen my death, and not in the sense that I knew what death was, but using it as an advisor. I've seen the knowledge. So I've had some light body initiations that the Pleiadians took me through when I was very, very young in my relationship with Fred Bell. Those stories will probably come out a little bit later. I kept kind of secret in my life. I finally busted out in 2011. Cobra's communication explaining some things to me, and I just felt there was a lot of misinformation. One of them was that the planetary ascension isn't going to happen in 2012. It's not going to work that way. There have been individual ascensions of people throughout history here. If there's anyone, let me just pause here. Does anyone have any, how did I see what was happening? Was it through interaction? No, what happened was the Pleiadians gave me some very specific metaphysical alchemical transmutation protocols, which included these advanced pyramid systems. I'll show you another one here. Oops, sorry for the sound. But we went through a process of growth with them from one pyramid. We were utilizing crystals and lasers and various geometric shapes. We had 4 of these. They were much bigger in Dr. Bell's living room. We'd place crystals in here, little mini clusters. Then we'd take rocks from the local environment. This is the mixing chamber. Whatever information we wanted to broadcast through the scalar field generation. These are pointed with crystals. There's lots of things going on there. We were utilizing lasers, and we were connecting those pyramids to Tesla coils. We were creating a very friendly environment for interaction in the ethers, and actually a field of protection around Dr. Bell's house that you can see in the book. That story goes there. Brad Steiger, we had many famous people. Brad Steiger wrote a book about it called The Promise. I'm the character Eric in this book. This is half fiction, half truth, also available on my website. But basically what happened was, it's kind of like Don Juan. We have an auric egg, and then you have points of attention. All of humanity views things or perceives things through a certain frequency band, which we all agree on. But in reality, there's multiple ways to experience the universe and perceive through your auric body. And as Don Juan said, the aspect of reason should be become a despotic guard, but should be a broad-minded guardian, has become a despotic guard. So So, yeah, I'll go into the radionics question in a minute, but this information, this experience was a physical experience. We had master crystals with lasers on them. Fred would call me up at 11 at night. He said, you got to come up, Rob. The energy in the temple is good. And the first thing I did when I came in, I took off my shoes and I went to all four corners of all four levels of Dr. Bell's house, and I put up incense. I then went into the living room and assumed a meditative posture. And at a certain point in time, Dr. Bell would strike me on the back, and the next thing I knew, I watched the earth disappear, and I was having very exotic, out-of-body, light-body experiences, which I didn't really understand. These led to some confusion for me. The ships were following me home as lights when I was 17, 18, 57 now. And I finally kind of got freaked out, and I was handed off to Gabriel Green, very famous UFO contactee from the Giant Rock. He called me one day and he said, Rob, the Ascended Master Hilarion said he's sending a teacher to teach. I said, really? Okay. And he says, have you met him? He said, no, but he'll be here. I hung up the phone. It's a very famous story. I've talked about it many, many times. The phone rang a really long time. The ETs. The basis of this meeting was I met a member of the U.S. military who refused to work in 1979 in the production bases. He was in Arkansas. Basically, he broke his mind control. He went to work for 3 weeks, gathered all the information, and said, I'm not working anymore. They threatened him with jail, and then they gave him an offer of a higher job to go under not mind control with money. He refused. And a space being broke into the jail. You can read that on many of my. But a hot chick in a silver spacesuit, as he said, pointed at him and said, we like the way you think and we're going to help you. Because he had refused and said, I'm going to go to jail. I'm not going to take the honeypot and go to work. I'm going to go to jail. Okay? They broke him out of prison. And he works as a light worker. When he came to me, there was a V in the snow. And he said, they put a V in the snow for you, Rob, so you'll understand this. He then showed me certain aspects of what I will call astral parasites in possession of what Cobra now has explained as a scalar feedback network, and how the human bioconsciousness auric field is jammed. I am presence, and there's literally a battle going on here. Other thing I want to get back to Ascension. So the Ascended Master Hilarion, who is on the 5th ray of concrete science of knowledge. Fred Bell was a master on the concrete level of concrete science. An Ascended Master, Fred Bell was a master. He held the focal point of ceremonial order and magic of the 7th ray. That was utilizing these scalar and radionic fields that we were generating with Tesla coils, pyramids, crystals, and lasers, in conjunction with other goodies. And the bottom line is we were able to create fields that allowed me to get out of my body and experience visions. I didn't understand it. The final aspect of this training of the teacher that Master Hilarion took me into the desert. A spaceship came down. I started crying with Gabriel Green, Michael O'Legion, military guy, and myself. The military guy was following telepathically this conversation that I was having with her. She cleared up some things for me. The question is, are you going to land? And she said, no, you'd think you're the Messiah. Here's. I said, thank you. And the military guy said, have you seen enough? Yes. And he said, she said, I know. So I turned my back on the spaceship, which was burning brightly 40 feet from me. Michael O'Legion screamed, where are you going? The ship's still here. And I said, she's not going to land, and the ship blinked. I'm not interested in a bigger car. I'm interested in the spiritual process of who we are, where we come from, what is. So, through my many years of teachings, with many different physical contactees, I did experience some channelings with 9 Shanine and some UFO contactees present in the room, where each one was given a specific direction. Like one of them was told to go to this mountaintop 2 days of the month after your last one, kind of keeping it secure from each one. But physical contactees getting direct expression from ETs. They're kind of weird, but their eyes were rolling way back in their head, and their Adam's apple were jumping up and basically just taking over the vocal cords of these senses. So that's kind of my background and experience with that. So anyway, through my experiences and assimilation, I understood that there was previously ascension of human beings, and actually it can happen to entire planets too. Now, the human being aspect that takes place here on the planet, a lot of time it takes place after death. Beings will ascend. Sometimes it will take place during this lifetime, as you read, if you read the teachings of the ascended masters about Mount Shiva, Godfrey Ray King. Those books actually talk about an ascension. One being brought into the inner chambers of the Arthan network. Rays were placed upon them, and they got basically end up as a 17 to 25-year-old looking kid. In reality, they've just been given a certain sense of reality on the physical plane. So what happened here a long time ago? What disrupted us? Well, Koba's made a lot of interesting explanations which seem to resonate with me, as why his blog opened on my birthday, and within 2 days somehow I was on his website posting. But the gentleman named Cobra at 2012 Blogspot basically is having physical contacts with members of what we would call the resistance movement, people inside the inner earth, those from Planet X. Someone wants to know, the technology that we have can bring about visitations and contacts. As you become familiar with this energy, settle into it, you will get visitations. As far as guaranteed contacts, believe me, it's very rare for a physical extended contact. I've been contacted. Contacts were revealed to me later, or I knew they were contacts at the time, but they walked me through things. So I've had like multiple contacts where I got to hang out with them and talk to other ETs. They know I had to eat the canary. Did have one experience. Dr. Bell, one time in the desert, in his book, he got to pilot Semyasi's ship. He asked if I could witness it, and they said no. They put me to sleep. Tell that story. It's kind of long. The other one was one time I remember leaving the living room at like 11 at night, and then we beamed down into the front of Dr. Bell's stillware, and he patted me on the back. He said, "You're the master now." He was so happy. He gave me this little initiation present of a silk robe, which I loved. But at that time, I remembered the whole experience. Going up on board, everything they showed me, some things about the future, what my mission was, and I made a promise to them. And that promise was to try and create this technology and to share it with the world to aid in what's called divine intervention. Because these technologies of these tachyon chambers or scalar field chambers that create a harmonic of the divine essence of the crystal, which is a perfect synthesis of spirit and matter. But to create these ambient electrical fields which are free from all the negative fields of HAARP, vaccinations, mind control, chemtrails, genetically altered foods, all these things that are jamming our frequencies intentionally. So you can raise your vibration, and the more remote area you are, the more likely you are to see them. But they're showing up all over the world now. They're not hiding themselves as far as their ships go. But as far as contacts go, those will be coming much more in the near future as we make progress with the negative being. So let's go into the ascension aspect of, there's different. Can we make contact with these beings? That's between when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and you may go through some earthly teachers first. Asked me what were the circumstances of Fred Bell's death. Fred Bell was protected like Dr. Frank Strange's. forces, but they could not protect him against himself. Cobra explained to me he was under tremendous pressure. He had a lot of knowledge. He never told me anything. I had to glean everything on my own. Very difficult. It stressed our relationship and his relationship. Much of the information that Cobra's talking about now, the grays and all this stuff, and he never talked about it. He just talked about the technology. And he went to meet Jesse Ventura. Fred did have, he did like to drink. He'd gained some weight. He didn't look very good. The sound of his voice, he basically had a heart attack. Was it helped along? Anything's possible. I don't know. I mean, maybe they killed him and replaced his body with a clone and beamed him. I don't know. I don't have that information. My intuition is he just died of a heart attack from self-abuse there and the stress affected him. Alex Collier, are you still in touch with him? Gosh, Alex Collier, I give him the Galactic Federation Medal of Honor. I had lunch with him some years ago before he went under, and he told me the situation was basically the men in black came to his door. He was getting post office. They met him, and they said, look, we have a message for you. Your website is causing us a problem. Take it down or peel the skin off your kids. Now, affected by the Andromedans, but they couldn't connect everyone who's genetically. He said, hold on a minute. He went and called probably inside the, and the guy answered the phone, says, you verify this message I'm getting? He said, I'm at Camp David right now. Let me go talk to Frank Carlucci. Oh my God. So what happened was basically the message was confirmed and Alex went down. Basically, a lot of financial stress. I haven't talked to him. I've tried to reach out to him to offer him to come to my conference. But he's basically incommunicado, and plus Alex Collier. Let's go forward to, I've talked about past ascension and ascension worlds where this process is celebrated and understood, and where beings are not and controlled by the dark side like we are. And the dark side is basically down from their higher vibrational state and got it to be very nasty. Advanced technology, scalar technology, pushes implants into every single human. Well, you're going to get rid of them because they're given birth. You literally have to accept them if you're going to be incarnate. There's really no way around them, no way to remove them. That will come called the event or the process of planetary redemption. So anyway, I will say that that is the aspect of planet ascension previous and on other worlds. Now I'd like to speak about ascension on our planet, which has come to the fore, of course, since the time of what the Pleiadians and many other beings recognize as a high creator son. Dissing any other religion, any other spiritual teacher, the nation of Christ is the highest revelation of truth. Many of the ETs can observe this and actually believe as a lesson the fact that we go on by accepting his death and resurrecting his physical body to prove that we are a spiritual body. People say I'm cutting out. I don't know what to do. Would someone like me to just, why don't I just pull the microphone entirely? Can I get a technical and let's just go internal on that?
Yeah, hi Robert. Yeah, I think we just had a little bit of cutouts here and there. We're able to hear most of what you're saying. There's just little bits here and there that aren't. If you wanted to go internal, absolutely.
Let's do that.
Okay.
But yeah, great information.
Okay, thanks. So how are we doing here? Let me check sound. Okay, we can lose that boy. Is that a little better? Can people hear me more?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're okay.
Okay, good. So we go back to the life of Christ, who I recommend people realize that this spiritual teacher is not responsible for the religion. And Billy Meyer's contact notes will all the time. And by the way, I was getting Billy Meyer's contact notes at the age of 17. Fred Bell was in close contact with Colonel Stevens, who I remained very close to in my heart my whole life. Until his passing, I took him to Egypt in 1991 on a UFO conference with Howard Menger. Him and their wonderful contacts, able to talk and ask them questions about their personal experiences. These are some of my teachers as well. And Wendell Stevens was giving us the Billy Meyer contact notes. As soon as they got to him, he would send us copies. So I was voraciously reading every one of Billy Meyer's contact notes at the age of 17. Britt and Lee Elders from the famous book UFO Contact from the Pleadings came over. Met Fred and I'm also Jim Delatoso. Had some very unique experiences. Super brilliant guy. He picture analysis proving that their pictures were real. I've reached out to him lately. We've had some private conversations. He's absolutely brilliant. He showed me one of the first telemetric helmets in 1980 that I hadn't even heard about, the ones where the eyes do it. They have ones that read the astronauts, pilots' brain waves. And so I've been very fortunate. But Billy Meyer had one time when he was in India, him and the woman named Asket from the Doll universe going to go back in time and meet Jesus Christ. He's quite excited. And there was a guy with him, and he said, "Do you want to go?" The guy goes, "Yeah, I want to go. I want to kick his ass. What's the problem with him and all the religion, everything that's happened from him just messed everything up." And he was really upset. And Billy kept telling him, "Calm down." When they got there and they landed near where he was at, somewhere, and he was going up to Billy, and Billy Meyer actually turned around, popped the guy, knocked him around, said, "Shut up, no disrespecting Jesus." So they went and have a contact, and Jesus said, yeah, he knew what was going to happen in the future. He wasn't really happy that they were going to make a religion around him. And so for those of you who have problem with religion, Catholicism, Christianity, so does the Master, Jesus Christ. Okay? So basically, we cannot throw out the sweet baby Jesus with the proverbial Constantine raping, murdering Roman emperor who basically overnight declared Christianity as the only religion. Yes, he made some, call them, basic times of year ceremonies, gathering from many different groups. Essentially they worshiped the black sun. They were the archons, the fallen negative beings, and they came in to hijack the message of Christ. Just because they did that does not mean that the life of Christ, his true message and mission, is important and something that should be looked at very carefully. I would recommend people look to the Course in Miracles as the new revelation of Christ. Teachings there on forgiveness, relevant. Sorry for those of you of the Christian and the Catholic faiths, but the Bible is nothing more than spiritual art. It was manipulated. They took out truths and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Essenes, the Qumran. Shed a lot of light on this. One of my great mentors, Dr. Frank Stranges, who works with Commander Valiant, Thor, who was commissioned directly by Ascended Master Jesus to act as one of the key liaison administrators for the Solar Council, Galactic Council, but they face to Earth, strongly in revealing the truth of Dead Sea Scrolls, and you can see Dr. Frank Strange's scrolls. I recommend you Google that. So let's see. I have an hour. So we're doing good. Let me move forward with it says are people like me invited because of specific DNA and a certain level of I have no clue. I happen to be very interested in pyramids. There's past life that I haven't revealed it to myself. Some people say I can read your past life. Hey, I don't. Until I realize it myself, I'm not listening to any psychic or someone who tells me what they think I am, including Michael Allegian or Andrew Bartsis or anyone else. To me, it's all just like a movie. Right. It doesn't matter who I am. Right now, I'm just a fat, middle-aged white guy trying to tell my story and to be careful not to misdirect people or to claim anything more than my experiences. As I said, my most profound experience of being up and beamed down, they brought the memory and I couldn't do it. They let me play some music. There was some music that Fred always used to like to play, and I played this instrument perfectly, and I hardly knew how to play it, but I played it like maestro. Right? They gave me some weird stuff. I've had some various city-like psychic experiences. I met the Mahavatar Babaji, not Harikan Babaji. Babaji Yogananda invited me. I spent some time with him, and he showed me certain technology called Kriya Yoga, still breath, and I'll be teaching that. Oh, I forgot to mention. Let's segue into a little bit of I have an Ascension Portal Conference. If you go to thepromiserevealed.com, for those of you who are interested, I'm organizing a 3-day conference September 12th through the 14th. Very unique location in Mount Shasta. We will have James Gilliland, have myself, have Tricia McCannon, we'll have Robert Perala, we'll have Alfred Lambramont Weber, Andrew Basago of the Jump Technology, and we're going to have Michael Allegian, who was with me during my contact experience, as well as Byron Belitsos, who is an expert in the Urantia book, and that is probably one of your most broad-ranging explanations of the multiverse. And you will understand that even these beings in these higher realms, when they describe the other beings, they don't even know what they do. They know there are certain lineages of light and certain processes that are working out planetary redemption and the reunion of planet Earth from its quarantine, establish the spiritual consciousness, and part of the planetary liberation or planetary ascension effect, which I'm in the future. Someone says, do you have a book? I wish I had the ability to go into the book, but I can't. So let's go into, anyway, the conference is going to be good. It's not going to be a dry conference. We're going to spend half the time inside with presenters, and then we're going up on Mount Shasta. I've lived there on and off for 20 years. I'm considered a local. I'm in sight, and I know where to go, and we're going to have some great things. All that information, if you go to my website, look under events, or click on the first banner, you're going to see that conference. And the price is going up August 3rd if those of you are interested in. Have lots of good information. Really not about the speakers, actually. When you get to these type of conferences, you realize it's about the personal interactions, the union, and the people that come, that are meant to come, that you contact with. So we're going to have a lot of information there at that conference. It's good. And we got plenty of room for people, but I will recommend you sign up before the price goes up by $40. Right now it's $180. Go there, you get the click on the Potter thing. So I understand I have 20 minutes left. No problemo. Let's see. The next thing I want to talk about is I'm going to go into Cobra and the website Prepare for Change. Now, one of the things that brought me out of the closet here is all these people and all these channels. They're coming out of the woodworks saying what's going on. God bless Sheldon Nidell. I know he has real experiences. I met him in about 1994. He was claiming the landings were coming. I was living in Mount Shasta, and I ended up having a brief kind of romantic relationship with his wife who was going out. Kind of odd because years later I had another girlfriend and he married her for a short period of time. Kind of weird there, but I went to his place in Half Moon Bay with his lovely, lovely wife separating at the time named Miriam. And he was talking in the next room. I go, is someone here? And she goes, that's the reason I'm divorcing him. He's talking to them all the time. And he was like in full-blown conversations walking around the house talking to beings named Washta. I said, how do you get your information when you talk? He says, well, they actually throw up a screen like a teleprompter in front of me and I read it. So according to Cobra, he has real experiences and he's dealing with some of the beings from Sirius. Now, he just recently did a post, and if you go to my blog spot, I put links and pictures up because I was close to Wendell Stevens about the Vegans from the Syrian Starseed, the book called UFO Contact from Arga, which is a superculture, which helps in the identification process of who we are and what we're collective unconscious to reconcile the self-love pole of matter versus the selfless love pole of matter. How we go through this identification process. They talk about a group called the Satan's Gang, which clearly is like Rumsfeld and these heavy negative beings that, according to Cobra, have come here from other worlds, like they did in Atlantean times. They created caves within the earth. Richard Shaver's information and Zero and the Shaver if you want to go back to there, there's a history to this. But basically, they went in there, and in Atlantean times, they started snatching priests surface, and they'd take them down there, and they had dental chairs, and they'd put implants in people's head, much like the government does today. False flag shootings, MK. Super soldier programs. By the way, Aaron McCollum, or what's James Cassabolt, a.k.a. Michael Prince, came out. Probably have that in a blog with a really sad video. You just see the guy so microchipped. Can't keep his head straight in a sentence. He's trying to come out and to stop what he's doing, but he's under. I also have talked to a woman named Brian Taylor, aka Susan Ford. I recommend you. Thanks for the memories to understand how the mind control program works. Relate situation. I've never encountered inner Earth beings. Someone asked me that I know of. But believe me, they're down there. I have a friend, Michael Allegian, and Bob. One of the first. His name was. Very famous researcher, and he was out there when I had one of my first contacts. But he's encountered an inner Earth woman named Jan. She was very sensitive. Her skin was white. Her mother was from the surface. Her mother went down, had her. She violated some of the laws and was forced to the surface. She's allowed to go halfway between the surface to certain chambers to connect with the family, but she's not allowed to. She came out to connect with her twin flame. Well, and I recommend you check YouTube's. were Sharula ducks. She has a series of 12 YouTubes that were recorded in Mount Shasta. Excuse me. And those YouTubes will tell you about the inner life in Shasta. They have what's called the Living Stone. The Living Stone is a pyramid which changes colors, and people will go into various activities within the inner earth based on those colors. She explains about their birthing process, how they live. I'm not sure if they're fourth dimensional, if you have to change the frequency to see them or not. Dr. Frank Stranges was taken aboard with Valiant Thor. He'd been to Venus several times. Taken to, her name was Sharula Dux. Sharula-Dux. Dr. Frank Stranges was taken to Venus, to the center of the earth, where he met 9 to 12 foot beings. And there are portals there where you can immediately, that's correct on the spelling, Brad. You go there on YouTube and you'll hear about life on the inner earth there. Monty was met by several people, including Michael L. Legion, tell the story. And basically, from what I understand from James, and James told Fred, I liked Rob, he was a nice guy, his thoughts were clear, because when they come and talk to us, some of these ETs, they consider us, we have an auric stench. They don't like our thoughts. Like smacking them in the face. The Keys of Enoch, the ancient text, I'm going to recommend people go to J.J. Hurtak's book, The Keys of Enoch. I was with him in Bosnian pyramids about a year ago. Brilliant man, beautiful. He's very into activating sacred sites through sound intonations. We did a series of prayers and invocations inside the caves at Rovni and various other places. That is what happens with Cobra. We were inside the King's Chamber of the Kefren Pyramid on December 21st at 12:12 p.m. We began an activation, and that's a whole story that you can see on my website under interviews with Martin Horst. It was the best interview on January 7th explaining the victory of the light in the Giza complex. He acted as the ground crew, very similar to Sir George King. Some people have asked, what is my message? My message is we are here to love and to gather ourselves into greater associations with like-minded beings, stop our judgments of other people, to live and allow, and to, if you go to prepareforchange.net, talk about the planetary ascension. I'm going to focus on that in these last minutes. Planetary ascension is a long way off, people. Take a look around you. This planet is not going to ascend with wars, people watching television. I mean, you just look at the movies and television and how many blood and explosions and grand destructions. All of this is filling your feeling nature. Lots of problems here. So, the Bible speaks of, someone's asked me to add this, I'm going to stick it in here. The Bible, of course, has many, many different texts with ETs. Jesus and certain of his disciples were meeting him in the desert. He was going experiences, and basically these experiences are rare, and there are reasons for that. They will become less rare. There are many people who've had experience that keep it absolutely quiet. Believe me, there are some heavy duties in the military who are going on board motherships or being trained, who are super psychic, who are going to be very much a part of the arrests and what's called the event. And the event is the coup de grace, the end of the dark cabal control on Earth. And that basically starts with shutting down the Earth's banking system, the financial global reset, which will take the power of the money that they use to pay their murdering XE, Blackwater, Chimera, Mossad, murdering Vatican criminals, the Opus Dei neo-Nazi George Bush. Go to my website on the right-hand side, learn about George Bush. Was a Nazi. Was a Nazi, the most successful spy. So look at that there. You're going to see that. So the plan of planetary redemption, first of all, how do we achieve this? People need to go into themselves, the small, still voice within, through various meditation. I recommend Yogananda for teaching the Kriya Yoga, the science of the still breath. And we'll do that at the end here. If I can be known when we have 5 minutes left, I'd like to leave with a message here. So everyone wants to know when the bank shutdown happens. No Ascended Master, it'll just happen. It'll be the right time, not my time. Right time. So that's when the event will happen. It will be guided by ETs on the technological level. They will shut it down, make sure it happens. Contact with certain people in what's called the Admiralty group in the inner circles who have contacted me. Feel to be certain things. I can't say certain things, and some things I just say is they're anticipating it. They want it any day. They're ready. The problem is these heavy-duty Dark Force guys have 4 or 5 clones. Okay, some of you may remember George Soros sold his shares in Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Chase, and another thing. They caught him and 3 of his clones. They got the real guy. They had to twist his arms, but he sold it. So that's a good thing. Now, they grab Hillary Clinton, or they shoot her, and this is not an ET thing. This is a White Force military guys. They don't know what to do. They're not ETs. We need to literally kill and remove these beings who are causing endless murders and deaths. So the structure that will replace the monetary system will be transparent and just, and it will have to do with a revaluation of the world's currencies. I can tell you this. The world's currencies is not about people getting money who've bought dinar. The meaning behind the world currency revaluation is to give certain countries their true worth that has been suppressed by the banking system. Nasara is a plan. It's part of the aspect. I'm sure it's been modified and changed since then. But it's definitely part of the plan of transparent justice system. But it must be controlled at the higher levels by the ETs. They will not announce themselves at this financial reset. The ETs won't be announced to the world population. First, we will see Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Clinton's, Bush's, their counterparts around the world in handcuffs and chains being led to world criminal courts where the exposure of derivatives fraud, collateralizing accounts, vaccinations, genetically altering foods, FEMA cants, false flag attacks, mind control, blah, 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 blah. All the dark stuff will be revealed. People are just going to go, what? The average person's going to go eating their Captain Crunch, genetically modified, and they're going to go, really? And the only way they're going to believe it is because it's on the TV. That's where people get their information. So this will be taken over by the world's military systems. The sensors involved in the stations and the satellite will be removed, and people will have hours and hours of real ET footage, meetings. All this will be explained over a period of time as people can handle it. The meaning of the financial reset, each country has been revalued based on their GNP, their GDP, and their resources within the ground. Immediately, you'll give trillions of dollars to a country like Ecuador, boom, they can start sucking out ocean water, and this is a big plan all over the world, folks. Desalination plants, forget the water, take down the dams, restore nature to its course, and let's desalinate the oceans and get water into the deserts and feed the people. The false manipulation of the foods and the whatever will be taken over. Let me know when I have 5 minutes. Edward Snowden is whistleblowing. Who knows if he's controlled by the good guys or the bad guys. I know that the Vatican and the Jesuits are very dark beings. They're all trying to maintain control by trying to be gentler and nicer, announcing UFOs are possible, a one-world religion, we're sorry about this, and all that stuff. I don't speculate. I don't know what the plans of the GFL are. They don't tell me, but they'll make themselves known. We probably will have Commander Valiant Thor has told me through Dr. Frank Strange's. I have conversations. I get to ask a question and get a return. that one day he will address the United Nations. He's already addressed them, and they were screaming, shouting at him. And he was a stranger at the Pentagon. The movie will be coming out. Read the book. Google it. He appeared. He looks the same as he did today. He's protected Dr. Frank. The cabal tried to kill him. He materializes, throws them into a heap, raises his hand, and they disappear. So believe me, certain of the good guys who are doing the work here are protected. There are certain levels of hierarchy. I have no idea about this kind of thing, just speaking from my experience and the truth that I have in my own. I would like to see Nasara happen yesterday, or the evaluation reset. I know that even the highest levels of the military and the admiralty groups of the Republic, which has been reestablished, there is a new president. He will be an interim president, will take over these guys. Obama, mind control subject, a victim. Control of his thoughts. Good guy, innocent soul, but he's been microchipped and his family threatened. He doesn't have a clue of what he says or what he means, and he's basically a robot. So that'll be revealed. That's happened to a lot of people, and it's very sad. These people need healing. They will not be in position. Andrew Basago told me some time ago, the book I just mentioned is Stranger at the Pentagon. We're not alone, never have been, never will be. I'm here to give that message of faith and trust to you that the good guys are here. It's going to get worse. Planetary Ascension, let's go through that real quick. After the Nasara and we get through this, the people get the shock waves of what's happening. People will be guided to islands of light. Some people will have free will to reject this information or not. There will be advanced healing technologies brought forth, ending cancer, teas that will end cancer, advanced tachyon chambers. Some of the technology I've been given, I've been told, will be funded and financed. We'll create entire large healing chambers where you don't have to think about it. The sound resonant will be used through sound, light, and color frequency, which will attenuate and give you the ketones of your own DNA. It will read your aura, what's going to release you to your I am presence, and whoa, you're going to be in a light show that will raise your frequencies to a very high level. And as quickly as you can assimilate this process and remember yourself to who you are and what you are, the process will accelerate or decelerate so as not to cause fear or problems to you. The planetary liberation process may take some time. Eventually, we'll get open contact. Then we'll go to the next level. There will be 3 levels of evacuations, certain levels of beings, certain of them known as 10,000 years ago, 144,000 ascended masters incarnated into the dark force matrix quarantine of Earth in Egypt and attempted to create a Ascension teaching of the true nature of consciousness and soul, and eventually fell down. They reincarnate again and again, and as they go through the growth, sometimes they end up murderers, but as they go through their growth experiences, they are raising the consciousness field of the general population. They will be probably lifted off first. Many of them will just go back to their homes. Some may stay here through the next process. There'll be another group that will be lifted off that got trapped here. Some of them will go home, some will stay. Some will come back down and continue with the healing and education process. Eventually, at some point in time, as Dolores Cannon has stated, and as J.J. Hurtak has stated, there will be a pole shift. The ETs are in charge of this. It's not going to be as cataclysmic. We may get some major cataclysm, not saying that people aren't going to die through the various tension release of these problems, but that'll happen. Whenish, who knows? I'm not going to say. Anyone who says is a fool. Every single one of them have been wrong. So just focus on your own inner growth. So the ascension process is going to be a step-by-step process of accepting things. Read prepareforchange.net. The borders are coming down. There's going to be no taxes. There'll be a flat tax on what you purchase. That takes away the borders. Oh, they're taking our substance. No, forget it. All you've been taught about money is a lie. The government's manipulating and controlling it. The central banks will go. There will be national reserve notes, and then we'll move to a financial currency, a moneyless system as people grow and aware. It's a process. It's going to take years. I mean, hopefully people can wake up. So that's my message. Go to my website, enjoy my conference. I have lots of good products there. We sell taconized crystals, orgone, rah, rah, rah. I can be a salesman, but let's go into the meditation of the Ascension seat. And I think you all know how to meditate, so I'm going to guide you through a meditation here. With your hands open and above, I'm going to ask you, keep your eyes open. If you have a candle, you could light it. But I want you to focus on your pineal and your pituitary centers in your head. I want you to literally have your eyes look up there. Energy follows thought. If you place your attention on your pineal and pituitary gland, you're going to create a resonant magnetic field. One of the secrets of Kriya Yoga is to keep a balance in your breath. Breathe in, you count 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. There is a little process where you can hold your breath for just a little bit at the top of the breath. And when you do this, I want you to imagine the divine masculine and the divine feminine vortexes of light in your body. From the galactic central sun, the center of all creation, the light comes in through the top of the forehead to the top of the crown chakra. Each chakra or endocrine gland has a counterpoint of a chakra. So the endocrine gland of the pituitary gland leads to a flower at the top of the head, the 1,000-petaled lotus. I want you to visualize a blue violet flame spiraling down. And now comes through the pituitary gland, whose flower chakra is at the third eye. Now go to your thyroid, and has a chakra directly over your thyroid gland. Then you go to your thymus gland, which is your heart chakra, which is actually colored green. That has a flower just below your breastbone. Yes, there is a heart gland that's associated with that, and that is the subtone frequency of the heart, which is a rose quartz crystal and is a heart. Each of these chakras have associated subtones, which are 13 in the octave. No such thing as we're going to have 13 chakras. We are subtone frequencies of organs, and follow this through your meridians as they flow in the body. Now go to the solar plexus chakra, which is the citron, it's the pancreas and adrenals. This is the yellow frequency. Yes. Now go to the spleen, which is the orange chakra. We go to the sexual organ chakra, which is at the base of the spine. And many people misunderstand this, but the root chakra leads to the endocrine glands, which is your flight or fight mechanism. And you have the flower of that reaching to your Muladhara or your root chakra. This may help you. I want you to see the frequencies coming up from the center of the earth, meeting in your body. Breathe in this violet flame. You look upwards and you connect to your mighty I Am presence. You breathe in this light and love from the center of creation. Every time you breathe in, I want you to fill your auric field, your heart chakra, Merkahbah, fractal light wave, a new shaped Merkahbah vehicle with light, and as you exhale, all negativity goes away and the light becomes stronger. See the blue flame merging with the rainbow meditation in and out. Cycle the energy from the center of creation of this galactic central sun. Not the Pleiades, that's where we revolve around. But the Pleiades revolves around the center of the galaxy, which is called Alohe. That is where we are directing this light from.